Welcome to English Every Day, your daily dose of English learning, fun conversations, and practical tips to take your language skills to the next level.
All right, ready to dive into some English phrases that you can use every single day?
Let's do it.
We're talking about the top 10 most popular English phrases for everyday conversations.
Perfect.
And to help us out, we're looking at this article from the language experts over at Everywhere English.
Oh, yeah, they're great.
I know a lot of you out there are looking to, really level up your spoken English, and this article is all about making you sound more natural and confident in all sorts of situations.
You know, it's interesting because these phrases, they're not just like words on a page.
Right.
They're like these social cues.
Ooh, I like that, social cues.
Yeah, they help you navigate the unspoken rules of conversations.
Okay, that makes them seem a lot less about memorizing and more about understanding how English speakers actually, talk to each other.
Exactly. So how about we jump right in?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's start with a classic. How's it going?
Okay, I feel like everyone's heard that one.
Right. We all know it's a casual greeting, but it's actually pretty different from "How are you?"
Oh, interesting. So what's the difference then? I mean, they both kind of seem like ways to ask how someone's doing, right?
Yeah, but how's it going? Yeah, it kind of assumes that you already have, at least a little bit of familiarity with the person.
Okay, so it's less formal.
Yeah, like saying, "What's up?"
Yeah.
"How are you?" is more neutral. It's polite, but a bit more distant.
So I guess, how's it going would be good for your friends, colleagues you're close with, maybe even like that barista you see every morning at the coffee shop.
Exactly.
And how are you is more for formal situations, right? Like when
Yeah.
you're meeting someone for the first time.
Precisely. It's subtle, but choosing the right greeting, it really sets the tone for the whole conversation.
Interesting.
Now, let's imagine you're in a situation where you didn't quite understand what someone said.
Oh, yeah. Happens all the time.
Right. Maybe they were speaking quickly, there's some background noise, or you're still getting used to some slang.
I've definitely been there. It can be so awkward, to admit that you didn't get it.
Absolutely. And that's where phrases like, "Could you please repeat that?" And I'm sorry I didn't catch that, come in.
Okay, those are good.
And these aren't just about you, the listener, getting the information. They're about showing respect to the speaker and showing that you're actually, listening to what they're saying.
It's more engaging than just nodding along and hoping you eventually figure it out.
Exactly. And by asking for repetition, you're giving the speaker a chance to maybe adjust their communication style so that you understand.
Oh, I like that. So even in those kind of awkward moments, these phrases can help you build a better connection with someone.
For sure. Now, let's say you're in a shop,
Okay.
just browsing around,
Mm-hmm.
and a salesperson comes up to you.
I know that feeling.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just want to browse in peace,
Exactly. And that's when the phrase, "I'm just looking, thanks," can be your best friend.
It's polite, it's straight to the point, and it sets a clear boundary.
It's a polite way to say, "I appreciate the offer, but I'm good for now."
Yeah. And even though you're declining their help, you're still being nice and acknowledging that they're there.
Right.
Okay, what about when someone has an idea and you love it?
Oh, I know where you're going.
Do you?
This is where "that sounds great" comes in.
Got it. It's simple, but it really shows, enthusiasm, agreement, and creates a positive vibe.
Like saying, "I'm excited about this too."
Yeah. Now think about how you usually order food or drinks. Do you tend to say, "Can I have?"
Do you?
Probably, yeah.
Well, try this on for size. It sounds a lot more natural and confident.
I see what you mean. "I'd like a latte" does sound smoother than "Can I have a latte?"
Right.
It's such a small change, but it makes a big difference.
Now, imagine you're in a new city, or maybe just not familiar with the area, and you need directions.
Okay.
What comes to mind?
Oh, that's easy. Excuse me, where is it? It's simple, it's clear, and gets right to the point.
Absolutely. And because it's so clear, it's understood pretty much everywhere.
So it's like a universal language for "help, I'm lost."
Now, I think we've all had times when we needed a little help,
Oh, yeah, all time.
whether it's at work, in school, or even just with some DIY project at home.
For sure. Sometimes it's just hard to admit you need help, though.
Absolutely. And that's why the phrase, "Could you help me with this?" is so valuable. It's a way to ask for assistance directly, but respectfully.
It shows you're willing to collaborate and learn, which is so much better than, struggling on your own in silence.
Now, first impressions, they're so important.
Yeah.
Whether you're meeting someone for the first time at work or in a social setting.
I feel like "nice to meet you" is so classic for a reason.
Exactly. It's simple, polite, and sets a positive tone. And here's a pro tip. Pair it with a warm smile and a handshake.
Oh, nice. It's like adding a little something extra to that first encounter.
So we've covered a lot, from greetings to asking for help to making a great first impression.
It's like we're cracking the code of English conversation, one phrase at a time.
I like that. But before we move on, what stood out to you from all of these?
You know, I think what's really interesting is how each phrase has like a specific purpose in a conversation. It's not just about the vocabulary. It's about understanding how people really interact with each other.
That's a great point, and that's what everywhere English is trying to show us. These phrases aren't just about speaking English, they're about connecting with other people.
I'm already thinking about how I can start using these more, intentionally, but we've got more to talk about. Right?
Oh yeah. In part 2, we're going to dive into some pro tips from the article. We'll talk about practical strategies for making these phrases feel natural in your everyday English. Welcome back. We're continuing our deep dive into everyday English phrases.
I'm ready for more.
Before we get to those pro tips, let's go back to a couple of phrases and look at them a little differently.
Okay.
Remember, how's it going?
Mm-hmm.
That's a super common phrase for casual greetings.
Yeah.
It's interesting, when you compare it to how are you, you can really see how different cultures use language.
Oh, yeah. You mentioned that how's it going? It shows a closer connection than how are you.
Right.
It made me wonder, is it ever okay to use how's it going in a more formal setting?
That's a great question. It's usually best to stick with how are you, or even just good morning or good afternoon in those situations.
Right.
But there are some exceptions. Like, let's say you've talked to someone a few times at work.
Okay.
You've emailed back and forth, maybe even had a quick chat in the hallway. In those cases, using how's it going could actually show that you want to build a more personal connection.
Oh, so it's like saying, hey, we're not just colleagues, let's be a little friendlier.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
all about reading those social cues and figuring out how close you are to the other person. Now, let's go back to those phrases we use when we don't understand something. Could you please repeat that? And I'm sorry I didn't catch that. I like those. We talked about how they show that you're listening and that you respect the speaker, but there's actually another layer to these phrases.
Really? What is it?
Well, think about it. When you ask someone to repeat themselves, you're also giving them a chance to, explain things better.
Oh, that's true.
Right.
They can say it in a different way or add more details to make sure I understand.
You got it.
Right.
So it's not just about you getting the information. It's about helping the speaker communicate better.
It's a win-win.
Okay, now think about those times you're in a store, just looking around, and a salesperson comes up to you.
Yeah, it happens every time.
Right. We talked about how I'm just looking, thanks, is a polite way to set a boundary.
Yeah.
But there's a trick to using it right.
What do you mean?
It's all about your body language and your tone of voice. If you say it too abruptly,
Yeah,
or with a dismissive tone, it can sound kind of rude.
that makes sense.
But if you say it with a smile and a friendly tone,
Mm-hmm.
it shows that you're being polite while still giving yourself some space.
So it's like, I'm good for now, but thanks for checking in.
Exactly. You're being assertive, but still courteous.
Yeah.
Now, remember that enthusiastic phrase, that sounds great.
Yeah.
Think about how good it makes the other person feel when you say it sincerely.
I never thought about it from their perspective.
Yeah, it makes them feel validated, like their idea is not just heard, but welcomed.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. It could definitely boost their confidence, too.
It's like you're saying, I'm with you,
Hmm.
tell me more.
Eh.
And remember how we talked about I'd like a AMD being a better way to order food and drinks?
Yeah, it sounds more natural and confident.
Exactly. It shows you're comfortable with the language. Like you're
Mhm.
saying, I know what I want, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Like a pro. Okay, what about when you need directions in a new city?
Oh, yeah.
Excuse me, where is the...
It gets the job done,
Right,
right?
yeah.
It's simple and everyone understands it,
Mm-hmm.
but there's a way to use it even better.
Really? How?
If you're talking to a stranger on the street, try starting with a smile and a friendly tone.
Oh.
It makes you seem less intimidating and makes the interaction more enjoyable for both of you.
So it's like you're thanking them in advance for their help.
Exactly. Those little things can make a big difference. Now, remember, could you help me with this?
Hmm.
That direct and respectful way to ask for assistance,
Yeah.
it's also important to use it effectively, especially at work.
I'm seeing a pattern here. It seems like it's not just about the words, but how you say them and what you really mean.
You got it. When you're asking for help at work, try to be specific about what you need and say it in a way that shows you want to work together.
So instead of just saying, could you help me with this? I might say something like, Could you give me your expert advice on this part of the project?
Perfect. Or, I'd love to get your input on this problem.
Yeah, those are great.
It shows that you value their expertise
Mhm.
and that you see them as a partner, not just someone to fix your problems.
It's all about teamwork and respect.
And finally, let's revisit "nice to meet you."
The classic first impression phrase.
We talked about adding a smile and a handshake, but don't forget about eye contact.
Oh, yeah. Eye contact is so important, but can feel kind of awkward.
It can.
Yeah.
But when you make eye contact and say "nice to meet you," it shows that you're sincere and that you really want to connect with the person.
It's like, I see you and I'm glad to be here with you.
Exactly. It's a small thing that can have a huge impact on how people see you. So we've gone back to some of these great phrases, looked at them more deeply, and even discovered some ways to use them like a pro.
It's amazing how much depth there is to even these simple phrases.
Absolutely. And that brings us to those pro tips from Everywhere English on how to make these phrases a natural part of your everyday English. Ready to hear them?
Definitely. All right, let's get to those pro tips. I want to actually start using these phrases, not just talk about them.
Of course. The article really stresses the importance of practice.
Makes sense.
And they're not just talking about, like, memorizing the phrases.
Right.
You can actually
Okay.
use them in real conversations.
Yeah, it's like learning a new dance move. You can't just watch someone do it. You have to get out there and try it yourself.
Exactly. And one way to practice is through something called shadowing.
Shadowing. I don't think I've heard of that.
So it's basically listening to native English speakers,
Okay.
like in movies, podcasts, TV shows.
Mhm.
And you try to copy their pronunciation and intonation.
So almost like you're their shadow following along.
Exactly.
Mhm.
It helps train your ear and your mouth to make those sounds naturally.
I like that. It's not about memorizing lines. It's about picking up the rhythm of the language.
Exactly. What about role playing?
Role playing. That could be fun.
I know it sounds a little awkward, but think of it like a dress rehearsal for real conversations.
Okay, yeah. So you could practice using these phrases in different situations.
Exactly. You could even get a friend to help you practice.
Oh, yeah, that would be good.
And you can even record yourselves.
Oh, that's a good idea. So you can hear how you sound and see what you need to work on.
Right. And it takes the pressure off because
Wow.
you're not in a real, high-pressure situation.
That's a great tip. What else do they recommend?
Well, there are tons of apps and websites out there for language learning.
So many options.
Yeah. The article specifically mentions flashcards and apps like Quizlet and Anki.
Oh, yeah, I've used those before. They're great for vocab.
Exactly. You can use them to make flashcards for these phrases. And don't just focus on the words themselves. Add example sentences, situations where you might use them.
It's like having a little English teacher in your pocket.
And last but not least, they suggest joining English classes or conversation groups.
Oh, yeah, those can be really helpful.
You can get feedback from a teacher and practice with other learners.
It's like having a support system for your language journey. Out of all these tips, do you have a favorite?
Ooh, that's tough. But I'm a big fan of shadowing. It's
Mhm.
amazing how much you can learn just by listening and imitating.
Yeah, it's like a workout for your English skills. So we've explored these phrases, looked at how to use them, and even got some great tips for practicing.
And remember, these phrases, they're not just about speaking English. They're about connecting with people and understanding each other better.
Yeah, language is powerful. We can use it to build relationships and make the world a better place.
Exactly. So go out there and use these phrases, start conversations, build connections, and see what amazing things happen.
And remember, learning a language takes time. So be patient with yourself and enjoy the journey. Well, that's it for our deep dive into essential English phrases.
Thanks for joining us.
Until next time.
Thank you for tuning into today's episode of English Every Day. We hope you found the tips and discussions valuable as you continue to improve your English skills. Don't forget to subscribe for more content and keep practicing every day. The more you engage, the better you'll get. Until next time, stay motivated and keep learning. See you in the next episode.